guys, Zar here. Good morning to you. It is Tuesday, Feb 4th, about to open New York in about a minute and a half or so. The daily frame, NASDAQ, S&P, and Dow. You can see that we have technical updates, meaning that we broke yesterday's high marginally on the NASDAQ, marginally on the S&P, and just barely on the Dow. But technically, that's a cascading update, right? It's a higher high than yesterday and a higher low than yesterday. But we have bearish bodies on all three. In fact, we've pulled back quite significantly here back into yesterday's range and span of travel. So we'll see what the open looks like here today. This is a mixed picture then for me, guys, not between the indices, but in terms of bullishness and bearishness. I would view this as neutral going into the open. The two sisters, guys, that I focus mostly on here, the NASDAQ and the S&P 1-minute charts, really wrapped around VWAP here, guys, volume weighted average price. This is a market imbalance here this morning, certainly over the last hour or so, wrapping around EMAs, and those EMAs are wrapping around each other and just kind of hovering or sitting on and testing VWAP. So again, very lackluster here this morning, guys, going into the open. Be watching that closely. There's the opening candle. Just do a refresh here very quickly. We'll wait for this 1-minute open range to close, and then we'll take a closer look. This is my trading grid, guys. There's daily 30-minute chart, very important chart for me, and the 1-minute chart on the right-hand side. There's that, I'm going to call it an inside day, guys, marginal break, but inside. Let's expand the 30-minute chart, guys. Always like to do that to start the day, get a bigger picture view. This is yesterday, of course, really just kind of grinding higher here into the close, and then right on the close or right after the close, rallied higher. I had a long here that I got stuck in for hours and hours from 10:30 a.m. until 4 p.m. That would have hit the final target if I kept it a few more minutes, but that's okay. I always want to get out of these things, be right before the close if I can. We have a clean traffic range up here, guys. That just means likely smooth sailing or possibility of smooth sailing if we get up into that zone up there. But we are tightly bound right now, guys. This range right here, for example, guys, is 135 points. Fairly significant range, actually. If I did this, of course, it looks much bigger, but we are kind of stuck in here. So we got a little bit of resistance here. We got some resistance here from Asia. And of course, the big key support and resistances are inside of the US session yesterday, as you can see from this. So wait for this to develop, guys. We now have the 1-minute open range, which is approximately 22 points, we'll say, for the NASDAQ, and the S&P would be only 5.5 points, of course, relative size. I'll put you on pause for now, guys. Bring you back once we get a little bit of structure here to play with. I'm not going to chase anything here this morning. If I have to sit here the whole day, take no trades, that's okay with me. I'm here for the most certain move, and I hope you are too. I'll bring you back. Jumping up here on the open, guys. Not going to touch this. I want to see how we react if and when we get up here to this zone in the context of an indecisive and neutral daily stance here. This thing could run hard, but that's okay. And pushing up here, guys, looks like on both the two sisters. I rarely take the first break of the open range. All right, guys, pushing up here. Guys, buy stop order, buy stop order, stop below. Okay, so I'm in, but I know that wasn't enough time for you if you were watching this live, and I always like to see it live. So this order is now a limit order here, guys. In other words, I want to see it pull back for you, even though I'm in. Just something I liked, and it came back. You see that there, guys? See, well, there it is. Okay, so now we're in. Bear with me for one moment. Just checking my own brackets and we're good. All right, long the NASDAQ here, guys. And I'm going to tell you why all of a sudden I decided to jump on that. All right, guys, so while we're waiting for this, why am I long here and why did I jump on this fairly early in the game? Here's why. Technically, we do have an update. In other words, a cascading up bar, but it sure looked very indecisive and neutral coming into this. And it still was here on the open. But then I noticed something that I noticed in the pre-market and actually forgot while I was working with my groups and sending out various things to the on Twitter and what have you, is this aggressive rejection tail in Asia. So prices had pushed down after a big strong rally up here after New York, guys, with earnings and what have you, and then had been trailing down, and a big sell down here in Asia, and then we got this rejection wick. Since that time, markets have rallied and retested the body, had rallied again, pulled back, retested again, and then rallied ever since into the pre-market, a little orderly pullback here. This is not an important zone, guys. And as you know, guys, zones are not all created equal. This is a weak zone. This is a weak zone, just part of a grinding downtrend, right? This little piece here. Strong zones are zones that are rejection areas. In other words, markets drive down and then are pushed back up. That's a bad example there, but let's go back to New York. Like this one here where prices are driving down and then rejected back up. That would be a very key zone. And so hopefully you get the idea. So on the open, we get this nice big shift candle and then kind of grinding sideways. I tuned into the two sisters and noticing that both the NASDAQ and the S&P are now above VWAP, above open range, above 9 and 21, 9 above the 21, and both sets of EMAs rising with prices above. That, before this, is a bullish alignment sign for a long trade. So technical up day, even with the bearish body, the configuration that I showed you here, the shift on the open, time spent sideways, above EMAs, above the open range, new high for the session, breaking above, and so on, is all saying toss the coin and call heads. And in this market, guys, there are no guarantees here. And target 1 has been hit, guys, and so the 1-hour all-or-nothing trader has left the game with full profitability. The 2-hour move stop to break even at 1 hour has now moved their stop to break even because we hit 1 hour. And so now it's the 1.5 hour and 2 hour all-or-nothing traders looking to see if they can make some money here today. And now the 1.5 hour all-or-nothing trader has left the game with full profits as well. It's just the 2 hour all-or-nothing trader looking to see if they can have their targets hit. And while we're waiting here, guys, I think it's important to add that these are interesting days. These are tricky days with Donald Trump in the office, of course, the White House, tweeting all kinds of things whenever he wants. We have trade war threats and threats of actual wars and actual wars happening, and issues like inflation and geopolitical tension and all kinds of great things happening. I say great in quotes, of course. And so you come into the market expecting to be patient like I was here today, and I was patient, but took an early trade here, guys, which I actually rarely do, but only because things lined up, recognizing this wick down here, of course, earlier on, in the context of what we saw on the two sisters, both above open range and aligning with the ES, of course, which is 500 blue chip stocks and what have you, and the fact that this is a weak zone breaking above. You could even take this zone out and see how clean this sequential wave uptrend is in the context of a technical up day. The body, by the way, on the daily, guys, is still bearish, right? It's still a blue body. It's about to flip. In fact, if I hit target here, that will flip this thing to a bullish body, and then things get really interesting. But this is a fragile and a delicate dance, and it's important to be nimble and flexible and just read everything candle by candle and to put together a story that makes sense and justifies tossing that coin and calling heads. And there it is, guys, all of a sudden spiked up. All four models fully profitable here, guys. Looks like we're going significantly higher. You can see how that candle is now flipping itself here on the daily. And there's that body becoming bullish as we talked about. So this thing could go significantly higher, but we took the most certain move on a fairly tricky entry here, guys. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. But thanks for being here. I appreciate you and your support, for clicking the like button on the way out. Have an amazing week. We'll talk to you soon.
Stick to the plan, ZAR'S voice in my head. Every move calculated, no fear or dread. Trading with precision like a hunter in the night. Victor in my sights, I'm ready for the fight.